What's up guys, today we're upgrading Aminatou on an extreme budget. Now I'm a big fan of this precon, but before we get into it, let's shout out those patrons. Irrelevant, you rock, and then additionally, hey, if you guys want to help me out, you can click on that whatnot link in the description down below. You'll get a free $15 whenever you sign up, so not only does it help you out, let you buy some of these cards I'm about to suggest, additionally it helps out the channel and I really appreciate it. You can also just like, comment, and subscribe. Again, that's very appreciated as well. Now let's get into Aminatou and the Miracle Worker Precon, what it's trying to do, and how we're going to upgrade it. I'm a big fan of this precon. It's very simple, but simple is good. Aminatou is going to give all of our enchantment cards Miracle, and then their Miracle cost is going to be the same casting cost, but reduced by 4. So we're cheating giant enchantments into play. And then additionally, Aminatou has Surveil 2, so we're going to, or she allows us to Surveil 2 every upkeep, so we're able to set up the top card of our library with those big enchantments. That way we can ensure we're getting those giant enchantments and casting them for their Miracle cost. So she synergizes with herself, which we are a big fan of. The one thing I did want to include in this deck, and I think it's almost an auto include, or it's at least very good, is Starfield of Nyx. This is going to animate all of our giant enchantments that we're cheating into play, and then additionally, we can surveil those giant enchantments to the graveyard and reanimate them with Starfield of Nyx. So there's a lot of synergy here. Not to mention, beating face with a giant enchantment that gives you a ton of value that's also a 6/6 is just pretty fun. Now, another thing that I saw, or another theme in the precon that we're going to be trying to abuse, is copying our most broken enchantments. Once we cast this broken enchantment, we want to copy it, right? So this deck already does that, so all we have to do is add in a few more broken enchantments that we want to copy, add in a little bit of card advantage, a little bit of top deck manipulation, and we're going to have a pretty consistent deck. So if you want to see the upgrades, let's get right into it. The first thing we're adding to this deck is more fun broken enchantments. Shadow of the Second Sun is going to be amazing here. It's going to give us an additional beginning phase, which includes the draw step and the untap step and the upkeep step. So not only do we get additional surveil, we're going to get to draw an additional card, and then we're going to get to untap all of our artifacts and lands. This allows us to draw twice as much cards as our opponents. We're going to get twice the amount of mana because we're untapping those lands. And then additionally, we're getting another upkeep trigger off of our commander because we also get an additional upkeep. Grave Betrayal, also very fun here. We're going to cast this for 3 mana, and now every single creature that our opponent controls that dies, we're just going to get on our side of the battlefield. Pretty fair, pretty balanced. Another one that's really fun here is Mind Unbound. Now this deck was missing a little bit of card advantage, so this is going to take care of that, because at the beginning of your upkeep, you get to put a lore counter on Mind Unbound, and then you draw a card for each lore counter on it. So it's just going to get better the longer the game goes, and this is definitely a deck that wants to make it to the long game. Mind's Dilation is just value here. It's essentially going to net us 1 card a turn from our opponents. Now, if you get a land, that kind of sucks, but hey, sometimes you can hit some whammies, sometimes you're going to whiff. At the end of the day, this is going to be 3 mana and provide a bunch of value, so it's going to be a welcomed include to this deck. Ethereal Absolution is another enchantment that I absolutely love to make copies of. This is going to be an anthem for all of our creatures, and it's going to reduce the power of all of our opponent's creatures by 1. So once you get enough copies of this, it can kind of be an Elish Norn effect where none of our opponents are able to stick a creature, and then our creatures are massive, so it can end the game pretty quickly in the right scenario. I want to point to a couple cards already in the precon that are going to synergize amazingly with these massive enchantments. We have Extravagant Replication, Ondu Spirit Dancer, and Mirror Maid. These are all going to allow us to double up on our most broken enchantments, and then Extravagant Replication is going to let us do it multiple times, and your board state's just going to get pretty insane once you get multiple copies of Starfield of Nyx, Shadow of the Second Sun, or even Mind's Dilation, Ethereal Absolution. These are all amazing cards to create a lot of token copies of. Moving on to the more synergistic pieces, we are also running Zur Ethereal Schemer. I think this is amazing. Just having another way to animate our enchantments is going to be very useful, since again, a lot of these animation effects make the power and toughness equal to the casting cost of the enchantment. So when we're running 6 CMC, 7 CMC enchantments, the fact that we can just reanimate it and get a massive creature out of nowhere is very useful, especially when Xur's going to give it Death Touch, Lifelink, and Hexproof. So not only can it be a way to protect your enchantments, but it can be a way to smack someone in the face and gain a lot of life out of nowhere. The reality chip is amazing in these decks that care about what's on top of your library. Not only will you know 100% what's on top of your library at all times, but it's also going to keep those low CMC spells and even those lands off the top of your library to ensure that you're going to hit those big CMC enchantments more often, more consistently. I'm also just going to add the talisman cycle to this deck. I really want to get Aminatou on the battlefield as fast as possible, and to do that, just having access to more turn 2 ramp is just going to benefit you. Hall of Heliod's Generosity is amazing in this deck. It's just 2 mana, put target enchantment from your graveyard on top of your library. So in response to your draw trigger, all you do is activate this, and you know for sure you're going to get a massive enchantment. You're going to reduce the cost because you have Aminatou on the battlefield, and boom, you're casting a 6-7 CMC enchantment for either 2 or 3 mana, and that's going to catapult us ahead of our opponents and make sure the deck's doing exactly what we want it to do. Additionally, we're going to add Aminatou the Fate Shifter to this deck, right? This girl cares about manipulating the top of your library and putting specific cards from your hand back on top of your library. So whenever we're messing around with the miracle mechanic, it's just going to make sense to run Aminatou, and it's kind of a miss in my opinion that she wasn't in this precon. I love Archon of Sun's Grace in this deck for a couple reasons. One, it triggers on enchantment ETB. So whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield, we are going to get a 2/2 white Pegasus creature token, right? This is notable because a lot of our enchantments we are trying to reanimate as well as cast. So just having it be an ETB instead of a cast trigger is going to benefit us in this deck. Not to mention, it's going to give all Pegasus creatures lifelink. This is important because we have to make it to the late game in this deck. So just having a way to gain life while creating a board state that makes chump blockers is very important here, because now we can mitigate damage, gain life, and create chump blockers for those giant lethal threats that are going to be gunning for us. Additionally, another card that definitely should have been in this precon that's in the main set is Entity Tracker. It's simple. Whenever an enchantment you control enters, and whenever you fully unlock a room, draw a card. Again, 100% should have been in this precon. I really dislike when they include cards from the main set that should have been 100% in the precons, but I don't know. Go ahead and toss this in there. This is just going to do exactly what the deck wants to do, and it's going to be a solid source of card advantage. With that being said, that's 15 cards in, 15 cards out, and now we've got a very usable and pretty powerful precon. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys want a non-budget version of Aminatou. I personally think she's a really cool commander. Also, don't forget to leave a like, because that's how I judge if I'm going to build these non-budget versions of the commander. Do we have a lot of comments? Was it well received? Is there a lot of likes? So be sure to pump it up, and I'll be sure to deliver a non-budget commander. With that being said, let's shout out those patrons. Irrelevant, Excessum, Chicken Salad, Praetor, you guys are amazing. I hope this helped you guys in your deck building endeavors, and I'll see you guys in the next one.